Sergey Kovalev defeats Isaac Chilemba on points, and I've got to say it's one of the few and far between occasions where I'm actually quite happy with my pre-fight analysis. I said potentially this is one to go the distance. If a 50-year-old Bernard Hopkins could go the distance, potentially an Isaac Chilemba could go the distance. And I said that Isaac Chilemba's a hard guy to look good against. What I didn't count on in making that analysis was that Isaac Chilemba actually had success during periods of this fight, and substantial success. Yeah, I scored multiple rounds to Chilemba here. Now, this was a fight that Kovalev definitely deserved to win. There can be no dispute on this. And, you know, Kovalev won relatively widely. There was a knockdown in one of the rounds, which we'll come on to later, which obviously is a 10-8 round in Kovalev's favour. But I can see an argument for scoring 4 rounds to Isaac Chilemba. In fact, I think on my card I've given him 4. Potentially, I could see reason to give him up to 5 rounds of this fight. So, I would have no issues with a scorecard 7 rounds to 5 in favour of Sergey Kovalev, with an extra point to Kovalev for winning the 10-8 round. I'd have no problem with a scorecard of that nature. The judges' scorecards were a bit wider, but this was a competitive fight. And whilst Kovalev did deserve to win, and whilst it was one of those competitive but clear fights, nevertheless, real credit goes to Chilemba for his performance here. And I've got to say, this is, I think, the toughest fight that I can recall seeing Sergey Kovalev in. And this is the fight where potentially we saw the most chinks in his armour, which is possibly a concern before he fights a fighter who many people, including myself, consider the pound-for-pound number 1 in his very next fight in Andre Ward. Now anyway, we'll come to that later. Let's talk through the fight briefly. Tentative early on. First 2 rounds very tentative. I scored both rounds to Sergey Kovalev. He's the one pushing the action. He's the one throwing the more notable punches. Third round, Chilemba comes into it. Gets the jab working. Third round could go either way. Maybe I'm siding with Kovalev and having 3-0 up off the 3. Fourth round, I cannot but really believe what I'm seeing. Chilemba is landing the jab at will, catching Kovalev left, right and centre. Kovalev's head is regularly going back with the jab. You know, Chilemba is landing routinely on Kovalev with the 4th round. And I've got to say, really outboxing Kovalev in the 4th round. I was very taken aback to see Chilemba dominating from the outside in that 4th round. In the 6th round, the fight in the 5th is close, the fight in the 6th is close. In the 6th round, Chilemba lands what I can only describe as a haymaker hook up close on Sergey Kovalev. That, you know, Chilemba's not the biggest puncher in the world. Kovalev's clearly got a good chin. I'm not going to suggest it hurt him, but, you know, had that been a big puncher at the weight, who knows what could have happened, because that was a monster hook that lands on Kovalev's chin and snaps his head right back. And I'm really thinking, you know, halfway into this fight, I think it's 4-2 to Kovalev on my card. I could see a real argument for it being 3-3. This is a very competitive fight at this stage. 7th round, Kovalev comes out, hits Chilemba with the punch he's been looking for all fight, the long right hand cross. It's a punch that could have knocked out a horse. And Chilemba goes down, looks to all the world like he's out of the fight. You know, it takes him a long time to recover. It's a huge, huge punch. But he just about makes the count. Just about survives the round. Again in the 8th round, Kovalev is very dominant, pouring on the pressure. Chilemba just trying to survive. But Chilemba shows great toughness, great heart, great durability. Comes out of the 7th and 8th. And then, for me, from the 8th round onwards, Kovalev's performance starts to drop. You know, 9, 10, 11. Very competitive rounds with not a lot happening. Chilemba's recovered. Kovalev appears to visibly have tired a bit. His output is notably less, particularly in the 9th round, where he does a bit less than anticipated. Maybe he's very tight at the weight. Maybe he looks very big at the weight. Maybe he's cut a lot of weight getting down to 175 and his body is starting to drain of energy as we get into the 9th round. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he tried to force the stoppage too much in the 7th and 8th round. I don't know, but Chilemba's very much coming back into it in the 9th and in the 10th round. 11th round, very close. Kovalev rallies hard in the 12th and Chilemba does well again to survive an onslaught. You know, clearly for me, Kovalev wins this fight. He deserves to win. He won the majority of the rounds. He was the more harder puncher. He was the more dangerous fighter in there. And he scored the knockdown. Kovalev wins, clearly. Let's put that to one side. And Chilemba is a hard guy to look good against. He's very awkward, very slippery. But the fact that he's awkward and slippery, let's not forget, Kovalev is going up in his very next fight against Andre Ward, who is awkward and slippery to a whole nother level to Isaac Chilemba. You know, Chilemba's a sort of tough, durable, awkward, experienced guy. Andre Ward's world class alongside that, you know, and that's where the difference is. So just looking at areas of concern for Kovalev in this fight. And look, Kovalev's a very good fighter. We know he's a good fighter. But there's no point me sitting here and telling you guys how hard he hits and how he hurt Chilemba in the 7th, because he did. You know that. You know he's a big puncher. I know he's a big puncher. Let's look at some of the potential question marks in his game that were exposed in this fight. I thought he was predictable, and I thought he was telegraphing his work too much. Too much of his punches were single punches. There was too much over-reliance in the long straight right. You know, Chilemba was a big guy. He's a rangy guy. He's pretty not as powerfully built as Kovalev, but he's a rangy guy. And he was trying to box at long, because, you know, Kovalev is a guy who does like to box long sometimes. And, you know, Kovalev was leaning in, throwing that right hand. And Chilemba really did a good job of avoiding that punch. And as I say, it took till the 7th round till Kovalev landed clean. You know, I thought Chilemba was actually landing the better jab throughout swathes of the fight, and Kovalev was just a bit too eager for the knockout, a bit too reliant on those single punches, a bit too obvious in his tactics. And we saw Chilemba really giving him problems. Chilemba was stepping back, stepping out of range. Numerous times in this fight, we saw Chilemba duck under the long right and come up on the inside. You know, that's something that Andre Ward will be looking to do. Ward's a guy who can have a low centre of gravity, he can dip under, then he can get in close, he can get into that engine room, which is where Andre Ward really likes to work. If you've got any doubt about that, re-watch the Ward-Carl Frotz fight. You know, that's what Ward's going to look to do. For me, Kovalev sort of got his jab up and running a bit more. He sort of looked to have double jab. So a lot of this fight where Chilemba is up against the ropes and Kovalev throws a big right, Chilemba's able to duck under it, spin him off, or Chilemba's able to duck under it and hold on the inside. You know, what Kovalev should have been doing for me, throwing the jab, doubling up the jab, jabbing to the chest, jabbing to the body, you know, do something to make Chilemba sort of, you know, lean back and then hit him with the right hand. But no, instead, Kovalev too regularly, and I'm not saying that every time, but too regularly in this fight, led with the right hand cross. And Chilemba was literally able to sort of spin him round. Another thing, and because he was throwing single punches and because he was quite predictable, Chilemba was timing Kovalev really sweetly at times in this fight when he was looking to throw. You have so many times in this fight, you can see Kovalev gearing up to take a punch, and that left-hand leader, Chilemba, snaps out and catches him really nicely. Yeah, we saw Chilemba timing Kovalev, we saw him countering Kovalev, we saw him catching Kovalev when Kovalev himself was trying to engage. And at times, Chilemba certainly appeared to have the superior footwork in this fight. Kovalev appeared a bit basic, a bit plodding with his footwork. You know, he was trudging forward, he was trying to cut down the ring. And I heard John David Jackson in the corner telling him he needed to do a better job of cutting down the ring, because he was getting Chilemba in the right positions, but then Chilemba was doing a very good job of escaping those positions. You know, and Chilemba had great credit with the way he was able to be evasive and lean back, bend back against the ropes, or duck under, or catch Kovalev and spin around. You know, it's a really interesting fight, this, to watch if you've got an interest in Kovalev and his career, because it's possibly the most vulnerable he's looked in there. And don't get me wrong, let me qualify it when I say he's the most vulnerable. He did win the fight, he won the fight clearly, he was never hurt in this fight. But here you have an opponent landing a jab semi-regularly on Kovalev. Here you have an opponent countering Kovalev. Here you have an opponent at times in the fight outmanoeuvring Kovalev. And whilst, you know, Chilemba is a very tough, awkward, durable guy who's known for causing real problems in this fight, you've got to say that I thought Kovalev would win this fight more dominantly than he did. Moving on to the Andre Ward fight, let me know your thoughts on this, guys. Whether you're a Kovalev fan or whether you're a Ward fan, I want you to answer the following question in the comments section. Do you give Andre Ward a greater % chance of winning their fight now than you did before this matchup? Because whether you're a Kovalev fan or a Ward fan, I think the answer to that has to be yes. Having seen this footage, having seen this evidence, Andre Ward does have a higher chance of winning this fight than he did before the matchup, as far as I'm concerned. Kovalev has always looked very, very invincible, very destructible. Here we've got Chilemba taking, in my opinion, multiple rounds of him and exposing some real areas of concern within his game, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I've always thought that Ward-Kovalev fight was 50-50. Kovalev's the bigger man, Kovalev's the harder puncher. Ward I've always given a slight lean to in terms of boxing. And do you know what? Whilst I viewed it as a 50-50, if someone stuck a gun to my head, based on instinct, based on gut feeling, I'd have leant towards Andre Ward. After this fight, I'm thinking it's more 60-40, 65-35 in favour of Ward. My confidence is increasing that Ward can do the business here. And I'll tell you why. I think Ward can cause all the same problems that Chilemba caused today. I think Ward can duck under punches. I think Ward can counter. I think Ward can catch you when you're trying to throw. I think Ward can wheel you around and show good footwork. I think he can do all the things Chilemba did with success. But I also think what Ward can do is bring an elite offence on the inside that maybe Chilemba didn't bring at the same elite level. Barry Jones, I was watching the Box Nation programming. Barry Jones said Kovalev can't fight on the inside. That was the official Box Nation commentator. Now, I think saying he can't fight on the inside is harsh. I don't think he's like a Vladimir Klitschko in terms of not being able to fight on the inside. But I do agree that his inclination is to box on the outside. And I do start to think that Ward is going to have a real substantial advantage on this fight when it does get to the inside. And that brings question marks into it for me. It really does start to bring question marks here. If Kovalev is going to be vulnerable to an inside game, if he's not going to utilise his jab, and if Ward is going to be able to predict and avoid his semi-predictable right-hand offence, this becomes a fight that Kovalev really could lose. Kovalev could be outboxed. If you don't believe that, rewatch the 4th round of this fight and look how Chilemba outboxes Kovalev in that round. That is a dominant Chilemba round. I know it's only one round of a fight that Kovalev deserved to win, but look at Chilemba outboxing Kovalev in that 4th round and ask yourself, how much better boxer, the undefeated Olympic gold medalist Andre Ward is, guys who's beaten up Carl Frotz, Abraham Kessler, ask yourself that question. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I've rambled on long enough. Credit to Chilemba, very durable, very respectable performance. Credit to Kovalev, got the win, got the knockdown, deserved to get the win, won clearly. Ward-Kovalev, it's a mouth-watering fight. Both guys have advantages. But for me, this fight, the Chilemba fight, gave me clues. And if it's given me clues, you can bet your bottom dollar it's given Andre Ward serious clues. I think Andre Ward can have the same success that Chilemba enjoyed tonight. And I think Ward can combine that with an elite level inside game that Chilemba didn't display tonight. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Agree, disagree, whatever. Leave it in the comment section below. I'm keen to hear from you. Many thanks for watching, guys.